Hi everyone, how are you? Wow, we've got lots of people on here. So thank you for joining. Nice to see you. I've got some questions that some of you have sent in. So we're going to get started with the webinar. It's 9 o'clock. I know lots of people are going to be joining as we go as well, because I've had loads of people register tonight. So that's great. I'm glad it's going to be useful. So make sure your phones are off, make sure you can concentrate, make sure you can listen, because I'm going to give you as much information as I can to help you with your individual challenges. The idea of the webinar tonight is, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Sarah Davison, and I am best known as the divorce coach. And I specialise in helping people to cope better with any kind of breakup. So whether it's heartbreak, separation, or whether it's divorce, whether you're going through it right now, you're thinking about going through it, or maybe you've come out the other side and you're still struggling with coping with that. I know a lot of the questions I got recently were from people who have been through the breakup and just really still struggling to come to terms with it. So I'm going to cover some of those as well. For those of you that haven't done a webinar before, if you want to ask me any questions, if you didn't get a chance to send any questions in, then there is a chat button at the bottom, and you can just pop your questions in there to me, and I will do my best to answer those as we go through. There's also a question and answer button there if you want to use that. I am recording it, so you don't have to make notes. I will email it all to you, to everybody that's registered, so that you will get a copy and you can listen back to it if that would be helpful. So and we've got people still joining, which is fabulous. I know we've got a lot of people that wanted to come on tonight. I know we've got people coming in. Let's see who we've got at the moment. I know we've got people coming who are going to be dialing in from all over the country, actually, and different countries as well. So let's see what's going on here. Okay, here we go. Let's have a look. Okay, right. Hi everyone. Okay, so we've got Amanda, Amy, Ronke, am I saying that right? Claire, Janet, Nikki, and Rob. I believe there's a function here, though I've never used it in a webinar. If you do want to speak, then I can try that button. And there's a button that comes up saying allow you to speak, and if you want to speak, then I'll take the questions like that, if that's easy for you guys. So you let me know what you want me to do. I know I've got questions from some of you who are on, so I will start with your questions. Janet, hello honey, nice that you joined us, thank you so much. I have your question here, so I'm going to start with you. And do guys just jump in on the chat box if there's anything that you agree with, anything you disagree with, anything that you want clarification on, then just jot it in there and I will do my best to keep up and to look at those. So I'll keep checking that as we go through. Someone's saying that they don't know much about me. So my background, just so you know, I'm known as the divorce coach. I'm a best-selling author. I've got 2 books. I know some of you are reading my books. I've got one that came out in 2015 now called Uncoupling: How to Survive and Thrive After Breakup and Divorce. And that has been out for a few years now. My new book, The Split: Breakup to Breakthrough in 30 Days or Less, that came out. It's published in America, but it's available on Amazon, and that is out on a Kindle version at the moment. I think it's like 99p on a Kindle version, so it's a great offer if you can get that on Amazon. And the actual book should be out in the next couple of weeks. We're just finalizing a few things on that right now, so maybe even the beginning of next week, so fingers crossed for that. Yeah, so that's what I do. So I have a clinic in Ascot. I coach clients around the world. I use this as well for my clients around the world, but they can come to me in Ascot or in London. So I'm also a patron of a domestic abuse charity. I know some of you have got have come out of quite abusive relationships, emotionally abusive relationships. Maybe some of you haven't quite realised from some of the stories I've read that you were in an abusive relationship. So that's an interesting topic as well. I'm the patron of a domestic abuse charity called the Dash Charity, and we help people going through any kind of domestic abuse. That's emotional, financial, so it could be violence, it could be emotional, it could be sexual, it could be financial. just that coercive control as well, which now there's legislation against. 2 years ago, the government brought in legislation to make coercive control illegal, which is incredible. And that's been making a massive difference to a lot of my clients, because now it's illegal to be controlling or demonstrate controlling behaviour. So if you're going through a breakup with someone who is being abusive, then that's something definitely to bear in mind if you're in the UK. Okie dokie. Now, okay, so we've got lots of people on, so let me crack on. So Janet, I will come to you first, honey. So I've got 2 questions from you, so I'm going to do both of them. Having sat back and realised and come to terms with the fact that I've suffered emotional, verbal and financial abuse over 24 years, I think I have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. How should I deal with this? Is there something you would recommend? Well, it is quite common, or very common actually, if you've been in an abusive relationship, to have some residue left over from that. You know, it is an extremely traumatic experience, especially if you're dealing with, you know, narcissistic personality disorder. For those of you that don't know what that is, it means somebody that is totally self-obsessed, totally, and can be very emotionally abusive. So it's very controlling, using techniques like gaslighting, where they say something which isn't true and they confuse you. Their behavior is very confusing. Maybe you're walking on eggshells when you're around them all the time. Maybe if you're not sure, they're going to fly off the handle. Gaslighting is when they'll lie, but it's sort of telling a story, so they will convince you that something that happened didn't happen in the way that you remember it. Or they might make you doubt yourself or your abilities. They might scare you, might intimidate you. They might control the people you hang around with, stop you hang around with certain friends, isolate you. And often it's very gradual. It doesn't happen on in the first few months. The honeymoon period doesn't happen. It tends to come in a bit later. So by that point you're in love, maybe you're living together, maybe you're married, maybe you're pregnant, maybe you've been dating this woman for a long time, and you don't really notice. They tend to be attracted to people who are very empathetic, so you're quite kind, you want to help them, so that when they do these things that are pretty awful, you forgive them. And when you forgive them, that's kind of a nice thing to do, I guess, but actually what you're doing is enabling that bad behavior, because it's very difficult to go back then. If someone's done something, your boundaries, and I talk about boundaries, and we're going to talk about it probably a lot tonight, that boundaries are what you think is acceptable behavior. This is important for all of you on here, because, you know, I've read it in so many of your emails. So imagine that you've got, when you first meet someone, your boundaries for going into a relationship are like a newly built brick wall around you. And if someone, then that's what you believe is acceptable behavior, and they're made up of individual bricks, okay? And then someone comes along and you meet someone and they do something, maybe they call you a name. And you think, oh, I'm not very happy with that. But I'm not going to say anything, I'm not going to do anything, because, yeah, that's okay. Not very happy about it, but I understand they've had a bad day. But what happens is one of those bricks comes out of your wall, your boundaries. It's very difficult to put that brick back in, okay? It's very difficult to put it back in. So then next time around they do it again. Well, you didn't really come down on them hard last time. It's very difficult now. Maybe you're nervous too. So then another brick comes out. And then they do something else, and then they do something else. And before you know it, your boundaries are dropping and dropping and dropping till sometimes, and with a lot of my clients, they're non-existent, especially if it's been a long relationship. Now, that can leave scars. You know, if you've been with somebody where you felt that adrenaline rush, you're nervous a lot of the time, you're walking on eggshells, you're waiting for those explosive behavior reactions, the rage, the anger, the irrational arguments that just don't make sense. You know, they don't add up, they're illogical, crazy. Like, you're like, well, hang on, I don't think it happened like that. I don't remember it happening like that. Well, no, I didn't say that. Or, you know, so they create a lot of doubt in your mind, self-doubt, which eats away at your self-confidence. So slowly, your self-confidence, your self-esteem will start to drop. And that's where long-term damage can be done. Now, it's not irreparable, but it can have an effect. Just like if you had a car crash, you know, you'd have the shock in your system, and it would take a while to get rid of that and for you to feel totally confident getting back behind the wheel or getting into a car with someone. So that post-traumatic stress disorder is actually now, I did some work, I spoke at Birkbeck University with Dr. Sam Vaknin. If any of you are experiencing any kind of abuse, then definitely check out Dr. Sam Vaknin's work. He's the one that really came up with the term narcissist. He's done a lot of work behind it. He's a fascinating guy because he's actually been diagnosed as a narcissistic personality type. And this, and he talks a lot with another man called Richard Grannon, who's a great guy, but he was on the other side, so he was a victim of a narcissist. So he dated narcissistic women for quite a long time. So some of the men that email me today, you might want to check out Richard Grannon's YouTube channel, because it's very relevant to some of your cases. You know, if you've been in a relationship with a narcissistic woman, you may not have noticed it, you may not have heard that term before, but you know, whilst predominantly is a male trait, there are women, I think the last statistics are about 80% men, 20% female. So there are a lot of women out there that do have that. And there's a whole spectrum. You know, it might be just being a little bit selfish all the way up to, you know, a complete class A narcissistic personality. So different types. But if you're left reeling, if you're left thinking, you know, do I trust them? Can I believe them? Are they going to do it again? Why don't they feel the pain that I feel? Because narcissists won't feel any empathy either, guys. They won't feel it. So they'll do things and they won't feel the pain. I had a client yesterday and her husband had been so unkind to her and she'd been really ill and there'd been a lot of things going on and he just hadn't showed any emotion at all. Now, it's not always the only sign, but it's definitely a red flag that there might be narcissistic behavior, and that's abusive. You know, and if you're on the other side of it, it can cause problems like what Janet's saying, you know, with emotional abuse, verbal abuse and financial abuse over 24 years. And financial abuse, for those of you that don't know, could just be things like, well, not just, it's huge, but it could be like controlling what you spend. You know, oh, well, you know, they've got the freedom to spend the money, you don't have the freedom. So that is important. Let me just see what's some questions in here. Rob said, I never realized I was being abused. I thought it was just part of our relationship until I started counseling. This was the form of coercive controlling behavior and led me not to have any friends, not being spoken to for 3 weeks at a time, and her advising that our marriage was over every time I stood up for myself. Yeah, it's a gradual erosion of your self-esteem. Exactly. You know, if they did it on day one, even us empaths, we'd probably tell them to get lost, right? But they won't. They won't do that. In fact, day one, they're busy trying to reel us in and make us feel head over heels in love. So yeah, so that's one of the things I think we've got to bear in mind, that is a slow thing. Now listen, it's no fault of yours. If you've been in an abusive relationship, it's no fault of yours at all, okay? Because when I say you've enabled them to do that by letting the bricks come out of your walls, your boundary, and letting those go, that's because of the way you're wired. That's because you're wired in a way where you're kind, you're compassionate, you have feelings, and you have empathy. Now, what we've got to learn is how to put those boundaries back up and maintain those boundaries no matter what. Because often it's a reflection of how we feel. Now, we are, if you're in an abusive relationship, it's because you're dependent on being in a relationship more than looking after yourself to say, I'm getting out of it. You need that relationship more than you do to get out of it. And even though it's toxic and it keeps you in, but it is, you can see in some of these emails I've had, you know, I keep going back, I keep thinking maybe there's another way, maybe our relationship isn't done, maybe I could go back, maybe they're going to change. They're not going to change. You know, you've got enough evidence there that they're not going to change. What we can do, we can't control other people. And this is the same, any kind of breakup, abusive or not. You can't control other people. We can only control ourselves. We can only control how we feel. And one of the things that people, you know, don't know enough about is how to control this. You know, I always talk about it as control. We have the remote control, if you like, to our brain. Just most of us don't know how to use it. And that's what I teach. I teach people how to dial down those negative emotions. So, Janet, when you're talking about having PTSD, it's totally normal, honey. And you have been through a hell of a time. I mean, I do know some of your story, and I know how difficult it's been for you. And I also know how strong you are and how amazingly you coped with it and got through it over the years, and how amazingly well you're doing now. And again, as somebody that's been in an abusive relationship, then quite often you'll be very tough on yourself, you'll be very down on yourself, and you won't stop to realize just how far you have come. You know, whilst there may still be ripples of the damage still there, you have come a very, very long way from where you were, well, when I first met you, but also obviously during the relationship. So look at all the things you've done. First of all, is the first step to take some steps and take some control. The other thing I would suggest to anyone who's been in an abusive relationship is to find a charity that can help you. You know, to find a charity that can help you with the domestic abuse. So there's lots of them. There are lots and lots of charities. The one that I am patron was Dash Charity, which is mainly in my area, which is Windsor, Maidenhead, Slough, Ascot. But there's also, you know, lots of, I mean, Women's Aid, obviously, but there's also charities for men too. There's lots of forums, there's lots of groups. You know, one of the first things I say is get educated on what abuse is. You know, understand what is narcissistic abuse, and you know, what are the warning signs, how do you get into it. If you are interested in that, I have a free video on my website. If you go to saradavison.com, you'll see the website page, and the top left-hand button as you look at my screen, it says, are you in an abusive relationship? You click on there, you can you put your email in, you'll get the whole video series. It's only short, it's a free series, it's about 5 or 6 videos that basically talk you through what the signs of an abusive relationship are, why you got into it, why you stayed in it, because quite often people don't understand why. I don't understand, and your friends most likely won't understand either. So getting some clarity on that. What are the warning signs so you don't do it again? And then also how you can pull yourself through. So number one, I would say, is to get educated. So read books, join forums, talk to other people that are going through it. You know, follow Dr. Sam Vaknin. He's interesting. I mean, some of you might find some of this stuff a bit tough because he is actually a narcissist. And when I spoke on stage with him and Richard Grannon, it was interesting because people in the audience were saying, you know, you're making me upset by what you're saying. And he said, look, I see you crying and I see you upset. But when I see you upset, he said, I see the door and the window, and that's the same effect as seeing you upset. It has no difference to me. I feel nothing. So it is quite hard hitting, but it's really interesting to see it from their point of view, you know, just understanding how their mind works. And so once you understand, you can't control them and you can't change them, but you can then use that information to make you stronger. And if you know the game that's being played, some people don't like the word game, but whether you like it or not, if you're in an abusive relationship with someone that's controlling, you're in a game. So you better learn the rules and master them and outplay them, outmaneuver them, and be 2 steps ahead every step of the way. Because that's the only way you're going to keep your head above the parapet and you're going to be able to get on with your own life. You need to start building you back up as well. Now, you know, with Janet's question, what do I do? Now, PTSD is a very specialist area for a lot of therapists. There are therapists that specialize in this. So that could be an avenue to go and speak to somebody and talk it through with a therapist who specializes in PTSD. I think that would be a great idea and something you would benefit from massively. You know, just trying to learn more about it, and then have someone that listens to you and you can talk to and talk it through with, which is good. But also you've got to put colour into your life going forward. You know, a lot of people get stuck in a certain area, and I want you to be able to put colour into your life and say, right, my future is going to look like this. And so I'm going to do little steps every day to move towards that, because whilst you're stuck looking at the past, you know, for those of you that are in a relationship that's come to an end, or you're still focusing on that, you're still thinking about it, you know, it's all encompassing, it really is, and you need to take a step back. And the way we do that is, there's lots of things, and we're going to cover a lot of them tonight, but one of them is stop telling your story. Now that sounds harsh, I know, but stop telling your story, because every time you tell your story, your body, your mind, the way your mind works is it will just relive the story. It's like, oh, I know that story, and I felt devastated and sad and betrayed and jealous and angry, and your body will automatically reconnect with all those negative emotions. And what we want to do is distance you from those, okay? So, you know, if you're telling your story to people, or you're saying it over and over in your own head, or you're telling it to people, and every time you go out, if you go to the dentist, you go to the doctors, you go to maybe the doctors because you might need some help there, that's okay, but you know, telling your friends, telling the mums at school, telling them your mates in the gym, if you're always talking and telling your story, you're reconnecting on that. what we want you to do is start creating a future. So you're excited and you're moving towards that. That's what's really, really important, guys. Super, super important. Okay, so we've got more people move, and Kerry's on board too. Hi, Kerry. Right, I know you're in Warsaw, so I know the line's a bit dodgy there for you, but we'll get that. So, Janet, giving you some suggestions on that. I think actually finding a specialist, if you think that would help, would be a really good idea. Finding a charity. I know that you're not based in the UK either, so if there is a domestic abuse charity, I'm sure there is where you are. Might take some digging around to find it, or you could just contact the UK Women's Aid, because they would help you absolutely for sure. They want to help a lot of people, so that's something they might, you know, they would talk to you. What else have I got here? Yeah, so for those of you who want to download that video, please go and do that. It will give you a basic understanding, but then go on and buy some books, get educated, watch some YouTube videos, talk to people. And it can be a very interesting area, this, because people sort of dive in and get stuck in these forums and never come out. Now, you know, it's, when you surround yourself with people who are just bad-mouthing and staying stuck, they're getting a lot of connection with people for having been in that. I just want you to get educated so you get clarity on what you've been through so you can move through it. Not so that you get educated and you stay bonded with people because you're talking about it all the time. Narcissistic abuse is horrible, and you want to get out of that and stop talking about it as soon as you're free to do so. So the best thing to do is no contact with those people who are controlling you. If you have kids, that's a whole different story, and there is a whole different thing for that. And do contact me outside of this, as that is the challenge, because that is not something we can address on this call. It's a big thing. Okie dokie. Janet, you also had another question. It's the same in the UK. If you stay in the marital home, you cannot change the locks on the doors. Again, another one of those archaic laws that is set up to protect 80% of the people, but not those people who've been through an abusive relationship. And what that means is that your ex can still come in and out of your apartment or your house because you can't change the locks. But what you can do is put chains and bolts and things like that. So I know that you've done that. And another thing you can do is put a camera outside the front door. Now that camera can be angled down so that you can see everything that's going on. Obviously you want to be able to see that and record what's going on the doorstep. And you can also get cameras that have an audio inside it, so you can't see it from the outside. So what that will do is you can record any situations or scenarios that happen, and you get the audio as well. Now, why is that a good idea? Well, obviously legally you have to check. If you're in an apartment, I'm not sure of the laws on that. But with a house, if it's on your property, then you can definitely do that. It's a deterrent, but also it's something that you could use to prove the abusive behaviour as and when that could be useful. Or even with the police. You know, if someone is being abusive to you, call the police. That is something that we're very nervous to do. I know a lot of my clients would hate to do that. But actually that's the thing to do, because it does trigger social services if there's kids involved. So you have to be aware of the repercussions of it, but then it keeps you safe, and it also stops them from behaving in a way that is intimidating or scary, because that is illegal and it shouldn't be allowed. So don't be worried about that. If you want more advice, then obviously you can contact me. Hey Gertie, you're on too. Nice. Hello, haven't seen you for a while. Sorry, it depends on how long the person has been away from the marital home. If someone's left for a length of time, only a judge or sheriff, Scotland, can determine if someone is allowed to return to the marital home. Oh, okay. Yeah. But a lot of my clients are still going through the divorce, so they're not divorced. Sorry, if the divorce is done, then obviously that will be settled in the paperwork, and that will either be your house or their house. But if you're still going through the breakup and it hasn't been decided, and the house is still both of yours, then that's where the problems come. And sometimes divorces, like mine, can drag on for 2.5 years. So, you know, something to bear in mind there. Okie dokie. Right, we are now moving on. I'm just checking, I'm getting all the questions as they come in. And thanks for dropping things in the chat box, guys. It's really helpful, really helpful. And nice to know you're there too, so thank you. Okie dokie. We've got another one here from, this one from Andrew, I think. Okay, so I'm going to summarize it. Basically, How do you get over someone who's had an affair? They say it's over, I'm work on things with you, but then actually carries on the affair behind your back for months. Then once found out, begs for forgiveness and carries on, does it all again, and this pattern continues and continues. I'm not sure if Andrew's on so that he can give me any more information about that. I don't think he's on here. I think he couldn't make it, so he's going to listen to the recording. But the thing is, if you are stuck in a cycle, and I know that they've broken up now, so Andrew's not with his wife. Sorry, guys, I've got a bit of a particularly cough still. But if you're with someone, or you have been with someone, and you've been stuck in that cycle where they've been unfaithful, then you've taken them back, you've tried, then they've gone and done it again, there is no trust. You know, that circle of trust is gone. Now, the foundation for any successful relationship is trust. It's trust. So if you don't have trust, how on earth are you going to make this relationship work? It just becomes blind faith, and then you're opening yourself up. You cannot control what they do, but you can control what you do. And the very fact that you would tolerate somebody treating you like that, cheating, and then forgiving. You know, everybody is different. Everyone has different morals. Everyone has different beliefs. And every relationship is different. Every breakup is different. You know, some people have affairs because they're desperately unhappy in their relationship and their partner doesn't show them any love. You know, how can you compare that with something like this, where someone is being loved and they just keep on going out and sleeping with other people? You know, everyone has their own reasons, and we can't judge. You know, we can't judge unless you really understand a situation and walked in their shoes. You can't judge it. But what you can do is look from your point of view. And Andrew, if you're tolerating someone doing that, then it says to me your confidence is very low. I know you may love her, and but then again, there's another thing here. Who are you in love with? Are you in love with a woman that consistently cheats on you, or are you in love with the image that you have in your head of maybe when you first met, or how things were, or the perception that you've got of her, which actually isn't the reality? And that can be a really difficult thing to come to terms with when you suddenly realize that the person you fell in love with doesn't exist anymore. Well, maybe they never existed. But when that happens, it can be very, very difficult, and you're hanging on to something that doesn't exist, and you're getting hurt over and over again because what you're hanging on to isn't real. And so that you're allowing this person to hurt you, and your values and your boundaries, everything's being compromised. You know, you're not being flexible and making compromises, you're now making sacrifices. And sacrifices, when you make sacrifices, they cause long-term damage. This is something that causes massive long-term damage for people. It's not something you get over in a heartbeat. It's something that takes a bit of time to work through. You can recover from it, of course you can. There's techniques and strategies that I teach that will help that, and time will help too, but you have to learn the lessons. So we have to look at why your confidence is so low and help you to rebuild your confidence by doing things for you. Now, if you are out of that relationship, which I believe from the end of the email you are, for the last 5 months, but still mentally, emotionally caught up in it, then what we need to do is start, for example, one of the good ways to get rid of heartbreak is obviously, as I've said, to stop telling your story. You stop telling your sad story. I know it sounds harsh too. It doesn't belittle the fact that it is sad, because it is. It's a very sad story. However, by telling that sadly emotional story, you're reconnecting to it. So we want to move away from that. The second point is we want to stop you from thinking about that, but we also want you to build you up on the other side. So there's other things you can do. We need to look at how we create a compelling future for you, so that you shift your focus from your ex to your future. Now, your future, I know you've got kids with her as well. You know, again, a lot of us as parents will do more for our kids than we'll ever do for ourselves. And that's crazy, right? But we will. But the thing is, if you've got kids and they're involved in this and they've seen this, and I think you said here the children want nothing more to do with that. We've got to remember that we are role models for our children, and they are watching and absorbing and learning from everything we do. So at the moment, if they're learning, for example, that marriage equals someone being unfaithful, and then you sit there and you take it, and that's okay to be unfaithful, and it's okay to come back, and it's okay to keep trying, and it's okay to keep repeating that behavior, then you become a little bit of yeah, the doormat, because the kids see that and they see that that's what you're tolerating. Now, either they're going to learn that that's what they should do and they'll adopt that as their behavior going forward, or they'll do the complete opposite. But actually, as a role model, this is where we can really step up as parents. And this is where I think these situations, which are highly traumatic and are quite controversial in the press. I don't know if any of you've seen any of my articles that I write. I was in the Mail today, actually, I had a whole page in the Mail today. But a lot of the stuff that I do is about kids, because I believe that divorce and breakups and these kind of things do not have to damage children, as long, it depends on the behavior of the parent. And even if it's just one parent, you can step up as one parent and make a massive difference to your children's life. And I'll tell you how. Because what they're doing is they're learning from us. So they're learning either to copy it or to do the opposite. And you'll see this, you might have seen it in your family or with other friends. You know, maybe your parents were like very fiery and angry, or maybe they had lots of arguments and you didn't like that as a child, so now you don't shout very much and that's not your personality. Or maybe vice versa. But it's really interesting to actually go inside our brains and understand why we're wired the way we are and why we do things the way we do. Now, as kids, they'll be looking to us for an example. And if you go through something as tough as this, that Andrew's been through, where you've gone through ups and downs of your marriage or your relationship, and it's been really, really tough, then one of the things you can do for your kids, which will give you the motivation to get up and do it too, is to say, right, I'm gonna, yes, I'm sad. Yes, this hurts. Of course it does. You acknowledge, you face up to those emotions, and you identify what those emotions are as well. I mean, that's really key. And that's another way of getting through emotions, is that, and I'm just gonna make a note of that actually, because I want to come back to that. What you want to do is you want to look at, identify the emotions. So say, look, I'm sad. This has been really tough. It's been horrible. But then you pick yourself back up. You dust yourself down and you go on and you create a better life. You go on, you say, I'm not tolerating this bad behavior anymore. It's not right. I deserve better. And then you go on and you rebuild your confidence. You rebuild your life. You redesign it the way you want it to be. And then your kids are looking at you, and the lesson they learn is an incredibly valuable life lesson. That even when the wheels fall off, when things go wrong, when we don't get that fairy tale ending that we all dreamed of, that doesn't mean that life is over. You can go on, because I saw my dad do it, or I saw my mum do it. She turned her life around, and look, she's even happier than before. Why is that so important, especially with today's children? Well, that's because you know about the mental health epidemic that's going on at the moment, the highest suicide rates in teenagers ever. I mean, it's crazy what's going on out there. You know, they don't get the grades, someone dumps them, someone tells them they don't look attractive or they're overweight. And all of a sudden, kids are committing suicide or they're self-harming. It's absolutely horrific. They think that if one thing goes wrong in their life, that's it. The rest of their life is determined on that level. But it's not. And you and I know that. We know that. And as parents, using something like this, whilst it is traumatic for us, and divorce, breakups are known as the second most traumatic life experience we ever go through. So I'm not, it is a huge thing. And that's after death of a loved one. So the most traumatic thing is somebody we love dying, and then the second thing is going through a breakup with someone we love. And that is extremely, extremely painful. But, however much we want to wrap our kids up in cotton wool, and I know we all do, we can't. Someone's going to lie to them. Someone's going to cheat on them. They won't get into the college they want. They won't get the job they want. They might get sacked. They might do something wrong. Something might happen out of their control and leave them devastated. But what they're going to remember, they're going to think, right, well, I've seen this happen before. It happened to my dad. Something happened to him and the marriage didn't work out. Yes, he was upset. He's human. He acknowledged his emotions. But what did he do? He went on and created a better life. Therefore, I can do that too, because I know that works, because I've seen it with my own eyes. What an incredibly valuable life lesson for kids to learn these days, especially. So, if you can't do it for yourself, you've got to do it for them. You've got to start boosting your confidence. You've got to get back out there. Exercise is a great way of doing it. I don't know, Andrew, I've not met you, but if you're not doing exercise, even a brisk walk around the block in the morning, every day, get up, have a purpose, go do something before you go to work, after you go to work, whatever it is, keep your brain focused, keep your body strong. It's really important. Try and break those patterns of talking about your ex. Don't use your ex's name either. It's another one that I use with all my clients. So for example, if your ex's name is Rachel or Robert, you shrink it down so it's an R, not a big R. I'm not talking capital R, I'm talking teeny weeny little R. And with your lawyer correspondence, with your friends, you never refer to them as a name. Now, why is that effective? Sounds really small. Sarah, what is that? It is a small technique, but sometimes the smallest things have the biggest impact. And the reason it works is because a name is such an emotive thing. You know, we have so much connection with that, you know, with a name. It triggers a lot of emotions, and we want to get away from that. We want to shrink that importance down and that significance. So, Nikki says, it's so refreshing to hear someone say that your daughter does not have to damage your kids. I'm a huge believer in that. So controversial, because I think there's studies and people who, ologists and iatrists, which I'm not, say that I'm completely wrong. But I just think that actually sometimes, you know, tough things happening to kids when they're younger makes them stronger, if they've got a parent that can help them through it and show them how to cope. And that's the thing. It's not just about, well, I'm upset, I'm sad, I'm upset, I'm sad, this is terrible, my life is terrible. You can't do that with kids. You've got to show them the way through. I'll tell you a personal story of mine. My son is one of his best friends called Charlie. And when he was 6, he's 10 now, but when he was 6, he came home from school and he said to me, Mummy, he said, I was playing with Charlie in the playground. We're having this great game of tag, which was the in-game at the time. He said, and then he fell over. He said, he didn't really hurt himself though. He started really crying. He said, I didn't know what to do. He said, I didn't know what to do. And I was like, sorry. I went over to him and said, come on, Charlie. He said, no, I'm really sad. And my son looked at him. He said, well, do the thing to cheer yourself up then. You know, the thing that stops you being sad. He said, Mummy, he looked at me. He didn't even know what it was. And I was going, oh, gosh. Okay. He said, so I said to Charlie, stand up, put your shoulders back, put a big smile on your face. And if that doesn't work, 5-star jumps. And he said, he did it, Mummy. And he looked at me, he goes, it really works. He goes, Mummy, he didn't even know that. And I'm like, okay, that's not in the curriculum at school. It's not what most people teach their kids. But because I've been sad and I went through a breakup when he was only 1, so I was still going on, it was still going on, he was 2, 3 and 4 to be fair. So it was a long divorce. So yeah, I taught him some of the techniques that I would use. So if I was sad, because sometimes he would see me sad, you know, and you can't mask all that from them. You don't want them to see you sobbing. You don't want them to see you hysterical. No. But if you get upset, you can say, look, Mommy's sad. Daddy's feeling really sad today. What can we do? You know, I know, what can we do to cheer me up? Well, we can change my body language. You know, put a smile on my face, you know, depending on the age, how you describe these things. Or I can run around and then fall on the floor and we can laugh or tickle each other or whatever it is that works for you with your children. The thing that makes them laugh, the thing that makes them playful, shifts their state in a heartbeat. Give them the tools to do that when they're tiny or even when they're 15, 16. I have clients who are doing it with their 15, 16-year-old kids. I know Kerry, who was on here, she used some of those techniques with some of her kids when they were away with their dad. So, you know, any age you can use these techniques, but what you're doing is you're giving them a gift. Because they're like sponges, they absorb it all in, and then they'll fall back on this, and you're programming them, you're hardwiring them at a young age. I know how to cope when the wheels fall off. Now, if that isn't one of the most explosively empowering lessons, especially in this day and age right now, to learn, it doesn't matter what happens, you know you can go forward, and you don't have to be defined by it. It's what you do about it that matters. Wow, that's your job as a parent done, tick, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so I've got a question here. Sarah, I'm seeing my children having a great time with them, which is full of love and laughter as it's been since they were born. However, my ex continues to badmouth me to them to such an extent that when I pick them up, they're hostile to me and angry. This normally subsides after 5 minutes, but I can see how much emotional distress and conflict it is causing them. Today, I picked up my 3-year-old who cried and told me, Mummy said, I can't see you or speak to you. I'm there for my children. I tell them I love them. I'm helping them. How can I stop my ex from doing this? I've contacted my solicitor and told Kafkas to no avail, and it just continues. Any advice? Oh, it's sad, huh? I mean, I see clients going through this. You're not alone, Gertie. You're not alone. I see clients going through this a lot. The challenge we've got, and Claire, I'm going to come to your question. I will come to your question next. The challenge we've got is that you can't control what they do. You can't control the bad mouthing. You can't control that, unfortunately. What you can control is how you are, and that's what you're doing. You're showing up. You're being the best dad you can. In my experience, bad mouthing does not work. The parent that bad mouths the other parent is usually the one that causes the rift between them and that child. It rarely brings them, if it's not true, you know, if for example, someone's saying mean things all the time, the child just becomes confused. They're like, well, I don't really see that when I'm with my dad. He's not that person. So I feel uncomfortable, like, you're saying that, and you're my mum, and I want to believe you, but then daddy's always nice to me, so I don't really understand it. So it causes confusion and emotional stress for children, which will impact on things like separation anxiety, results at school, potentially sleeping arrangements, those kind of things. It will have an impact on the child. So it's not healthy, it's not what we want to promote. But again, you can't, you know, all you can do is be there to pick up the pieces for the kids, which it sounds like you're doing, and you have to. You know, you need to make a note of it for things like CAFCAS and your solicitors. Ultimately, there isn't that much they can do, but all I can say to you, is that it doesn't pay in the long run. And if you are being genuine and loving and supportive and with your children, and you're not bad mouthing the mother, ultimately when they get to an age, you know, 9, 10, 11, 12, older, they will make their own minds up. And that's when it can turn around. And ultimately backfire on the parent that's been doing it. And it's not a clever strategy. And it's cruel to the children. So it's because it causes internal conflict with them. So yeah, it's a tough one. Unfortunately, you can't control them, but you can control what you're doing. And it sounds to me just reassurance, just being kind, being the person that you are, being loving. That's what you can do. It's a tough one, and I feel for you. I know. I had the pleasure of working with you, and I know how tough that can be. Claire, my husband left after 3 months of us being married. It came as a complete shock to me. I went from being the happiest I've ever been to the saddest overnight. How do I stop loving him? Okay, well, that's tough, Claire. It's really tough. You know, I don't know when that was, so if that was very recent or if that happened a while ago, but if you're going through it and you're in the early days, you know, you're in shock. The first thing, you're in shock, you're in denial. There's 5 stages that you go through after any kind of breakup. The first one is denial, where you stick your head in the sand and you don't want to think it's going on. You're just like, oh, I don't think this is going on, and you don't really face it. The second stage is anger, where you start feeling really frustrated and angry and why are you doing this? These kind of questions, and like hitting out and getting really, really angry about the situation. This is a point where people can get really, really stuck as well, because anger is quite a paralyzing emotion in a lot of ways. So if you can't deal with that, you can get stuck there, or at least keep coming back to that section. And then we move through to bargaining, which is, what's wrong with me? If I change, will it make a difference? Is there anything I can do? If I lose weight, and it's those internal, why did it happen? Why don't they love me? All those kind of questions that you're asking yourself that don't take you any further forward. But if you don't have any concrete answers, and I don't know enough, I don't know whether you have answers as to why. Okay, so yeah, it was November last year, so it's still very recent. Do you have any answers why? Do you know why he did that? Is there anything that he said that will give you any clarity? Because again, not having clarity, it can be very difficult. If you don't know why someone left, again, that can cause it to be very difficult. Again, you may never get those answers, and I have clients who never get those answers. And even if they did, they'd probably not make much of a difference, to be honest. But it is a tough one. So that's the bargaining stage. The fourth stage is depression, which is when you're very emotional. You might even be out of tears, but you just have no energy. You're very lethargic. You're stuck. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to move forward. So those things are really, it's a very debilitating stage. And that's where, and just be aware of this, that a lot of my clients will go to the GP, and the GP will diagnose them as being depressed and then medicate with antidepressants. Now, listen, I'm not judging anyone who takes antidepressants, because sometimes they are very, very useful. But there are techniques you can use to get yourself through that. It is normal to be depressed. If someone has left you or you've gone through a traumatic situation like a lot of you have, it's normal, okay? It's not something that's abnormal. And you do come out of it, because the final stage is acceptance. And that's where you kind of get to the point where you're done. You know that it's over. You know you can't change it. You know you can't go back, but you're stuck. A lot of clients I see are at that stage where they're just totally stuck. They're like, I don't know how to move forward from here. I know that it's not going to work going back, but I don't know how to move it forward. So in that stage, again, there's things you can do to speed it up, but depression will go through into acceptance eventually. There are techniques you can use to speed it up. So I get my books, the split or uncoupling, start with uncoupling, and then you can move to the split, maybe whatever, or if you've got the splits, you can use that first. But it's, one of the things that you're dealing with right now is the shock and getting used to that, and everything that you planned for obviously has been very short-lived. So one of the things that you could do, I think, is just take some care of yourself. Make sure you've got a good support team, you've got a good family, you've got good friends. By that, people that don't pour fuel on the fire, but people that make you feel better, people that make you feel empowered about the situation, that make you feel like, okay, well, it was a lucky escape, and now let's get your life back on track. It's obviously going to be a journey for you, but it's something that you will get through, and you can move through using the techniques that I've created in my book. So do that. Do read those. The breakup support team, you're going to need friends and family. Again, exercise. I know it sounds like, but it makes a massive difference. If you're stressed about anything, worried about anything, anxious about anything, just getting up, getting out the house and going for a walk will make a difference to how you feel. I promise you. And it's all about taking control of what's going on in here and dialing down those negative emotions, but learning to dial up some of those good ones. And just by exercising, you're going to be releasing endorphins and making yourself feel better, and just breathing in the fresh air. Connect. If you live in a town, go out to the country, drive somewhere like a lake or a forest or a wood, and just go for a walk. Spend time with people that make you laugh, people that know are going to lift your spirits, not commiserate and pull you down. Because you need to start moving through this now. It's February. It's a good time now to start thinking, right, okay, I've done my grieving, I've been devastated. Now, who am I going to become? What am I going to learn from this? And how am I going to make a difference and move forward? Again, if you need legal advice or financial advice, quite often a lot of the worries we carry around after a divorce or during a divorce is that we don't really know what the situation is. It's very early days for you, but if you need that, then get someone on your team. You don't need to want to push the divorce through. You don't need to actually have to do anything, but what it will do is give you clarity. And clarity will reduce the stress and the pressure you're under. So if you haven't seen a lawyer, go and see somebody who can just give you, for an hour's advice, and there's some law firms that will do that for free. If you go to a local law firm, say, look, I'm thinking about instructing you, could I come in for a free session? They might give you half an hour, 15 minutes. They should do. There are people out there that will. So if they won't, find somebody else that will. And just get an understanding to talk to someone who can just explain it to you. Because once you've got that again will take some of the pressure off you. So if you're worried about money, then talk to a friend or an expert who can help you plan out your budgeting. All these things you can take and just take the pressure off by getting more educated and understanding about your personal situation and getting expert advice. So that's really important. And then if you can, go to, there's local charities that can support you through that. There's coaching. You can come book a session with me. I'm speaking actually tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow. I'm speaking tomorrow night, Valentine's Day. I'm speaking at an event called The Single Boss. And that is in the West End in London. And that's, well, some of you it's not relevant, but some of you it might be. If you have your own business and you're single, then it's a good network dating company. I'm doing a talk there for them. And then also charities. There's lots of charities that will help. And I'm speaking at the Best You Expo. And for anyone that wants a boost of confidence, it's at Olympia Friday and Saturday, and it's every personal development self-help expert that I know is going to be there, covering every area of your life: business, wealth, relationships, health, finance, you know, relationships, dating, finding love, yoga, meditation. I mean, there's every single area that you can think of. I believe my friend Paul McKenna is going to be speaking. There's some incredible people from the States that are going to be speaking, that are flying over as well. It's really a great place. If you want a boost, I think tickets are only like 10 quid, and you can turn up and get them at the door. It's at Olympia, or you can put them online. If you go onto my Facebook page, Sarah Davison Divorce Coaching, there is on there somewhere a link. One of my posts is a link to get tickets for that. Okay, I've got a few more questions I want to go through. So, Rob, yours is quite an interesting story. Oh, Claire, great. Well, I will see you at the expo. Come and see me. Come and say hi. Yeah, come and say hi and we'll have a chat. I'm speaking, but then if you get me back when I'm back at the stand, then I'll have time to chat. And I am going to be doing free 15-minute sessions. So if you go to my stand, speak to one of my team, if I'm not there, they'll tell you when you can come back and see me, and that's totally free. So you can come there. Okay, cool. Rob, okay, so thanks for your answer. I know you gave me some more information. Obviously, there's quite a lot going on there from behind the scenes that I can tell, and I don't have all the information on that. Let's just see what you've also written on here. I'm currently going through this for the last 7 months. I just had the worst week with my son last week. After speaking to the children, they both told me that mum had been speaking to them, bad-mouthing me, etc. Immediately prior to them attending my home, what I've learned through some of the books is for a child to say, alienating parent, that upsets me, and I don't want to speak about it anymore. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, there's two ways. It depends on the age of the child, it depends on your situation. Blanket advice like that, I wish I knew more about your situation, Rob. I could really help you. I don't know how old your kids are. I don't know what your ex-wife is like. I mean, although I can see in some of your story pretty harsh. 10 and 9. Yeah, see, at 10 and 9, are they girls or boys? At 10 and 9, kids are starting to work things out for themselves, you know. And if you don't talk to them, I haven't got one of each. Okay, I haven't got enough time here to give you all the support, safety nets to put underneath, so I can give you the best advice. So I want to be clear on that. But I just want to just generically say that sometimes children carry around a lot of pressure. By the time they get to 8, it was a bit early, maybe 9 and 10, they can start to understand that it doesn't feel right. Now, if it doesn't feel right to them, they won't understand it, and it will cause confusion. And that confusion can then manifest, as I've said earlier in the call, about stress in other ways. So it could be bad behavior, it could be attention in classrooms, it could be results, it could be anxiety, separation, it could be so many different things with kids, depending on the individual child. One thing I do know is that if you do talk to kids and acknowledge how they're feeling, they're like a balloon, and that just lets some of the pressure out for them sometimes. In some situations, it can be helpful to talk to your kids about things, but it's about knowing how to say it, what to say, and when to say it, how much to say, how much detail. And again, you know, I can't do that here because I don't know, it's not to where I need to really talk to you in more detail. So, but, you know, again, you know, the story that you told me about your wife coming back, well, she left you, and then she came back and reconciled, and then she left again. No coincidence, you had some money, you came with some money, and she came back, and then she went again. You know, to find out that someone's been dishonest, and to find out that someone that you trusted, that you cared about, has done something to you which really hurts, is incredibly difficult. It's very difficult to come to terms with that. It's very difficult to rationalize that. And it can be very hard to move past that. But ultimately, sometimes people do unforgivable things. Sometimes they just do. And we struggle to forgive that, or to move past it, or to understand it. And sometimes that's because we would never do something like that. And sometimes it's because it is unforgivable. You know, some behavior is unforgivable. You know, I'm a believer that you can't forgive everything. You know, some things you can for sure, other things you can't. And again, that depends on you, your beliefs, your religion, all those kind of things, your past experience. Sometimes though, people just do things that aren't right. Now, people that are coercive controllers, and again, I don't know enough to determine whether that is the case here, your wife or not, I don't know. But they're going to try and control everything around them, including the kids. Now, ultimately, that backfires. Ultimately, kids see through that. They find that uncomfortable. They don't like it. You know, this has been going on for a while. You separated in July 2018 over something that didn't make sense, which sounds like gaslighting to me, but again, I don't know enough to make that call. You know, obviously she's been deceitful. Obviously, there's things been going on behind your back. So all those things add up to something that is confusing. And something that's confusing tends to involve some kind of, you know, coercive control usually. Smoke and mirrors can be very confusing. The thing for you now is that, you know, you may never get the answers. You may never get 100% certainty of what happened and why she did it. What you can control is you, though, Rob, and getting yourself back on track by getting yourself sorted up here so that you can move forward. You know, the best revenge is for you to move on and make your life something special, to go on and create a life you're really happy to live. So that what happens is, it's almost like if you imagine the old-fashioned weighing scales, where sometimes, you know, Kerry, this is for you too, because I know you sent me a question and this is really part of it. If we're focusing on the past, or we're caught up in that, and our lives are very entwined with that past, we need to try and disassociate ourselves with as much as we can by not doing pickups, joint, you know, not seeing, if you've got kids with someone, don't see them at the drop-off, get them to pick them up at school or drop them off at school so you don't have to see them. You know, minimize contact, set your boundaries high so that doesn't interfere all the time. I think that's really important. You keep going back to that space, it's going to drag you down. What we need to do is shift that so that you're focusing more on the future. So you're focusing more on doing more things. So start doing the things you love. Start thinking about, who are you as a human being? What makes you tick? What drives you? You know, what would you like to do? If there's something you're worried about, you know, like maybe you think, oh, I've got a client at the moment, she's a rubbish cook. And her husband's run off with someone who's a great chef, apparently. So she's gone on a cookery course. So now she's not so worried about that side anymore. Other people, they want to get fit. They want to, some people want to start up their own business or create an extra income stream. Other people want to learn to be a better parent. Whatever it is, focus on those things. Face your fears. Don't run away from them. The worst thing you can do is run away from them. If something's worrying you, most of our reaction is to take a step back and not think about it. The irony is, what we need to do is dive into it and face it head on, because it's almost like it dissipates when we're facing it. It's normal to have waves of upset, waves of sadness as we go on, especially when you're spending time with couples or friends that are married and that have what you ideally thought you had or would have had or dreamed of having. But ultimately, you are where you are. You can't change that. What you can do is change how you feel about where you are and where you're going. You know, and if you're not feeling happy, it's because you haven't got enough stuff going on yet. You haven't quite painted that picture bright enough. You haven't created that future. Work out things that you can go and do that make you happy. Spend time with people that make you laugh. You know, go and do things that truly light you up. You know, treat yourself to something, pamper yourself, spend time nurturing you. Again, if you come out of an abusive relationship, you're going to have that ripple effect for a little while. So you've got to try and take your control back and set your boundaries straight. Now, on my retreats, I run breakup recovery retreats. If you haven't heard of them, they're on my website. Next one's the 18th and 19th of May. They're very small. I keep them relatively small because I work very closely for 2 days with you, take you away to this beautiful hotel called Ashdown Park Hotel. And there's a couple of people on here who've been on them. And I basically spend 2 days working with you, going through all the different techniques and strategies that I share, but also planning the future for you as well, and getting you to dive deep and work out what makes you tick, what you enjoy, what your values are, and building like a future, steps that you can do when you get out of the retreat that you could go and implement straight away to make things better. Because the thing is, we all control this. I know sometimes we struggle with it, sometimes we have better days than other days, sometimes it's easier, and sometimes it's harder. But that's normal, we're human beings, guys. At the end of the day, Be kind to yourselves. Please be kind. Give yourselves a break. You're going through tough times right now. So look after yourself, look after your body. You've got a strong body, you have a stronger mind to make the decisions. Make sure you've got your support teams set up, and just also get the sparkle back if you can. Some of you are all at different stages, but you know, when you're ready, get some fun back. Spend time with people that pick you up, that make you feel good. And you start dating again. For those of you that have been out of your relationships for a little while, that's what my article in the Daily Mail today was about. Go on my Facebook page, you can read it on there. It's online on the Daily Mail. If you put my name in Daily Mail, it will come up today. It's all about how to get back out dating, and how to, you know, how to, even when you don't feel like it, how it will change how you feel, you know, and the safety nets. And what I was going to say is, on the retreats, we do a how to design your ideal partner exercise, which is about, again, focusing on finding out what you want, but also what you need. So the lessons you've learned from the past, the mistakes that we've made, the people we've gone through, the, you know, the putting safety nets in place so we don't make those same mistakes again. And then we go on and we create your ideal partner with the safety nets that you can go and date, because you know that you're not going to fall for those. You're going to see the red flags before you even get into it. You know, and Claire, it'd be interesting to see if there were any red flags for you at all or not. I mean, there might not have been, but if there were, what were they? And how to avoid running those patterns, because a lot of us get hurt by that rejection and that failure, or that torment if you've been in an abusive relationship, and then think we can't trust anyone else. But that's just hogwash. It's not true. That was one person. You know, we need to take responsibility for getting better at picking the right partner, and we need to get better at taking responsibility for our own lives, and for creating a life that we're excited to live, both for us and for our kids, so they can see what is possible in life. Because it isn't what happens to you in life, it's what you do about it that makes you the person you are. And that is an incredible lesson for anyone, especially our kids, to learn. Okay, well, I've been talking for an hour now, guys, so I hope you found that useful. You know where I am. I'm at the Best You this weekend if you want to come and see me Friday and Saturday. You've got my email address, sarah@sarahdavidson.com. If you want to check out my retreat, do come. They are amazing. And also you get to work with a small group of people as well. And that's fantastic, because you get that bond, and that, you know, we'll set up a WhatsApp group for you and you'll stay in touch. Let me just okay, Claire says there weren't any red flags. So, yeah. Well, yeah, it'll be interesting to talk to you on Saturday, Claire. Do please come and see me. I hope I've answered all your questions. I've done my best, and yeah, I'm here for you. Contact me, check out anything. If you've got any questions, drop me an email. But big hug, stay strong. You can do this. We need to get in control of that. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, everyone. Mwah. Big hugs, lots of love. And I will send you out the recording of this so that you can watch it back if you need to, or if you've got a friend that might benefit from it, then do. Thanks, Janet. Thanks, Nikki. Thanks, everyone. Mwah. Big hugs, lots of love. Bye-bye.